All right, welcome everyone. We are back for another episode of Race to Success. I am back in my studio with Dan, my neighbor in Hawaii. There's Dan right there. So we have a great setup. He's made me some coffee. I already had some. And I'm feeling a little dusty today, Dan, because we had pizza last night and Dan brought over a great bottle of wine. And I have to say that I'm moving a little slower than I normally am. But today's show should be cool. We have Lisa Copeland. Lisa is a team member of mine over at EXP, and she is an amazing agent. But more than that, she's a keynote speaker. She's incredible with new agents. She's got a really great roster of agents underneath her. She's from Texas, and she's a great guest to have on board. So let me pull her in. Let me see here. There we go.
This is fancy.
I know,
I'm so impressed. Like, my office is totally under construction right now, and Arie shows up like he's on the Tonight Show or something.
Hey, I'm just trying to bring it to another level. So,
Well, you're doing it.
Lisa,
Success.
yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. I know that, we know each other since I've joined EXP, gosh, in last October. Seems like it's been a lot longer than then, but we spent a lot of time together, went to EXPCon together. But what impresses me most about you is just the way that you deliver your message to your agents, and you help people. I would say empower people and give them the information they need to kind of get them a kickstart in this industry. I feel like you're a great leader in that regard. And today's show is all about how to get more listings. It's kind of like the number one thing all new agents ask an experienced agent is, how did you get your listings? What can I do on a daily basis? And it's a subject that I think, it's kind of different for everyone, but I feel like we can add a little bit of knowledge to that topic. Don't you think?
I do. And what's interesting is that it's a shifting market. And so one of the first thing I've told my agents, it's a little bit overrated being a listing agent right now, because I am primarily a listing agent. It's a little bit, it's a little tougher than what it used to be. So sometimes you need to follow the shift, and you need to pivot. So right now it's really a good time to be a buyer's agent. Now we're going to talk about listings, but I do want to put that out there in the universe, that like some of us are like, oh no, I'm a listing agent, which is what I say right up until about 90 days ago. And then I'm like, it's not that great being a listing agent right now. It's tough. I'm here in Central Texas, and it's crazy. It's like our inventory's doubled, and the buyers in certain areas have definitely thinned out. Right. So how do you take that mental shift? I go back into my Rolodex, and I'm like, well, these are the last 6 people that called me about buying a house. They got discouraged. They flunked out. They said, I don't want to, spend 100,000 over. And, I started dialing for dollars, and I picked up 3 purchases and sold them all in a week. And I was the only offer.
That's amazing.
So part of it is, follow, Arie, I saw this great speech, and it has stayed with me forever. And so I'm in Central Texas, and very close to Round Rock, Texas, which is the home of Dell Computer. And Michael Dell gave a great speech one time, and I was on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, so I was lucky enough to be there. And he said, the most successful people I know, they follow the money. And he said, so let me tell you the story, the journey of Dell Computer. He said, when President Bush was president, we were all things Homeland Security. Like all of my departments, that's all we did, was we serviced Homeland Security at Dell Computer. When Obama was president, everything was about healthcare. Right? Healthcare. And when Trump was president, it was about entrepreneurship and small business. So, taking that same mindset into your real estate career is, you follow the money, you follow what's going on, right? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? And I'm not saying don't go get listings. And we'll talk about that today. And it's different on how you're going to acquire the listings, because you're going to have to set some pretty strong expectations and parameters, or all you're going to do is just have a sign in the yard, and the property's going to sit. But don't walk away from those buyers now. Everything's negotiable. Oh my God. 3 in a week. It was that easy.
And I think
crazy.
But I think that's also a good reason to let people know that it's a great time to sell, because I think the number one complaint 6 months ago is, oh, I don't want to sell my house because I have nowhere to go. That was kind of the thing. People were in sort of that mode of like, I don't want to give up the house I have because now, like, where am I going to go? Well, now it's really great because we have this appreciation that's happened over the last couple of years. It might not be as great as 6 months ago, but if you're a homeowner that's been in their house for the last 5 years, you're still banking on a huge amount of appreciation. But now you have somewhere to go. I mean, there's more options as a buyer. So you have sort of the exit strategy after that you sell their primary and you can put them into something. And I kind of like that because you have the great appreciation of your house. You have
Right.
somewhere to go because there's more options to buy things now. And you're still, the interest rates, they're not the greatest, but what, last week, I think they dipped below 5. And there's
Yeah.
options. You can buy down the rate a little bit. Your husband is in the mortgage industry, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you're,
Do
you're,
a,
better than
2-1
most.
buy down. You can do a 1-1 buy down. I mean, like, for example, like I really like on the FHA for first time home buyers. I was in the mortgage industry for years, and there's a product called a 2-1 buy down. So you're buying the rate down
Mhm.
2 points lower, 2 full points.
Right.
So if the rate was 6 today, you start at 4 for year one, it goes to 5 year two, and then it levels out at 6. So
Yep.
there are programs like that. So you want to be sure that you are working with a mortgage professional that's seasoned, that's been around for a while. Because we haven't done a 2-1 buy down probably in 7 years. And my husband told me, I don't know, a couple of nights ago that he has 3 in the hopper right now.
Wow. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
literally,
You need
you have to
definitely.
educate the agents.
Right. You need to educate the agents. The agents need to be hooked up with good lenders to empower their buyers,
Mhm.
to give them all the knowledge, because I think people feel a little stuck right now and there's a lot of holding going on. But if you have all the knowledge out there, you can kind of overcome that. And I heard you say something last week, like date, date the rate. What is it? What
You
you're
have to be
saying?
so careful how you say this one.
I
It is
know you got to be really careful how you say it.
date the rate and marry the
Yep.
house. Right. So you can always,
Exactly.
and I'm talking to the bachelor right here, for God's sakes, right? You can get rid of that rate at some point. Something better is going to come along. Right. Isn't that what happened to you on
Yeah.
that show?
Maybe,
Better kept coming
maybe.
along.
I actually watched The Bachelorette last night. I haven't watched the Bachelor franchise in a while since Chris Harrison left because I'm a big Chris Harrison fan, and so I
Right.
watched it last night and I was like, man, have I moved on or has the show kind of fallen off a little bit? So I don't know. So
And what did you come
that's
up with? Don't leave us
well.
hanging.
I mean, I feel like the show's fallen off a little bit, but that's for another podcast.
It's a whole nother
Another
podcast.
live stream. But yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, date the rate, you marry the house, and that's an
Right.
awesome saying because if you really love a place, you could refi out in a couple of years. Who knows what's going to
There's a
happen
million
with
different
that
things you
rate.
can do. I mean, there's interest only loans. Those have been around forever. There's 40-year mortgages. I'm not really a fan of that,
Mhm.
but I'm fine with the interest only. There's LIBOR ARMS, which is London index. And
Mhm.
some of those indexes are much lower than the Treasury indexes. So there's a lot of ways to go. You just want to work with somebody who's been seasoned, right? Who's been in the
Yep.
business, and I'm going to say over 15 years. Because really, when
Mhm.
we saw these over 20 years, because when we saw these rates drop, I'll never forget. I was a mortgage banker then, and it was 9/11. And of course, our
Yeah.
country's under attack, everything falls apart. And that is the first time we saw these massive rate drops. And of course, I was like, oh God, the world's coming to an end. We're never going to do another loan. Well, wrong. Within a month, the Fed had dropped rates from about 6 to 2.5. Again,
Wow.
trying to wake America was in a coma, right?
Yeah.
Devastated, scared, paralyzed. What are we going to do? Da 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 da. They had to stimulate the economy. So,
Mhm.
what do you? I mean, it's just simple. It's just math, right? When you want to stimulate the economy, you drop the rate. When you want to slow the
Right.
economy, you raise the rate. And boy, they're good at it. They are really good at it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Mhm.
We talk about the shift all the time, how the market's changing, how a lot of people are in a holding pattern. But I also feel like for an agent, this is a really great opportunity to kind of set yourself apart from, the agent that isn't going to put in the work. I feel like this is the time I'm grabbing a ton of listings right now. So next week I go live on 4 new listings. And
Good.
I think it's due to the fact that, you know, people are kind of coming back to the agents that are offering them more. They're offering them, better marketing package, a strategy on how to sell their house, a plan, basically, because a lot of people don't have a plan. I think they just kind of in the market that we had 6 months ago, they let their uncle list it or their aunt or their mom that does 1 or 2 deals a year because it didn't really matter because the house was going to sell. Now
You
they're
stick a
like
sign
turning to
in the yard
agent.
and it will sell.
Right. So
Okay,
now it's like,
so
okay.
I want to ask you about how are you setting, because I had a listing last week. How are you setting the expectation of the seller? So I had a listing last week, a listing appointment,
Mhm.
and I
Yep.
chose not to take the listing. And and so they were interviewing 3 agents, which that doesn't usually happen to me. But in this case, interview 3 agents,
Mhm.
great. I came in,
Yep.
show me the house. I always do that before I show a CMA because sometimes I'll adjust it up or down. And I said, okay, based on everything I'm seeing, everything you're telling me, based on the market in the last 30 days, I don't care what happened 90 days ago because that's not
Yeah.
what is happening today. And
Yep.
based on what I'm seeing forward in the next 30 days, your house is worth X. And they said, oh, no, 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 no. The other 2 agents
Mhm.
told me this price. And I said, your house won't sell at that price. So
Yeah.
we can have a strategy to sell in the next 30 days, or you can have a strategy to sit on the market for 6 months. And long story short, they said, well, we're going to roll our dice on the higher price. I said, okay, I
Mhm.
understand that, but I'm not interested in taking the listing. And I think as agents, I think we need to protect our time and we need to protect
Yep.
our reputation. I mean, nothing looks worse than if you're listing a house that's on the market for 90 days, or you're listing a house and you've got to do a big price drop. And that just kind of
Yeah.
shows the market, and it shows the other agents that you're not really in control of your seller,
Mhm.
and you're not really
Yep.
in control, or that you don't have knowledge of the market. Me personally, I will pass before I'll take one that's
Yeah.
overpriced.
100%. I think that comes with experience. I think a lot of newer agents will just take the listing and then
They
they'll
will.
learn the hard lesson of chasing the market down, spending your time, spending your money marketing a
Money
listing, and then, spinning your wheels to eventually not sell it to where a more experienced agent comes in, you know,
at the
3 or
price
4
that they said it was
yeah.
worth.
Yeah, so 3 or 4 years ago, I would say, it's always the second or third agent that sells the house. That was kind
Mhm.
of the term because a lot of times the first agent would be pretty gung ho. They would listen to the sellers, put the market on them, put the house on the market for what the sellers wanted for. And then the second or third agent would come in and actually sell the house.
Right.
My strategy is I always have a CMA ready to go. I keep it really broad on what I think the price should be. I chat with them. I have a number in mind always, that it's our job to really curb, I guess, the expectation and to really give them the real take on it, but also have a couple options. I like your idea of having two options. Like we can sell for this and it could sit on the market for 6 months, or we could sell for this and in the
I have
next
a
few
30,
weeks we should
60,
get an offer.
90-day price, 6-month price. Really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always tell them that the higher price and it taking longer to sell, we might chase it down and ultimately you're not going to net as much. You probably will
Right.
probably sell for less than the first option. So we should go with the first option. It's good to get you the most money. And if we are a little underpriced, the competition will obviously correct that and the price will go up.
It will.
So I don't know. For me, it's always about it's like you said, setting expectation, having that frank conversation. And yeah, if you're doing a CMA right now and you're an agent, 30-60 days max. Don't be looking at what happened in April of 2022 because it's just not the same.
I mean, I can tell you in our market, I won't look at over about 20 days right now.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah, it has declined that much. And it's so interesting
Mhm.
because then I had one I put on the market last week, 2.3 million. In the better market, it would have been at 2.7. I convinced the seller 2.3 will sell the house. He said it would be great if you'd sell it on my birthday, which was last Friday. It was the 14th.
Mhm.
And we put it on Monday, and we manifested. I got a full price offer, and literally the people
That's
that were coming,
awesome.
they're like, "Oh, this is a great price. This is a great house." Da, 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 da. I'm like, "Yeah, because we priced it to sell it, right?" I
Right.
mean, at
Mhm.
2.7, it probably would have sold in 6 months. I mean, it's such a unique property. But so what are the seller's expectations? My seller wants to move. And so and they want to get out. So we have to
Yeah.
have a 30-day price. Some sellers will say, I'll sit here till the end of time to get my
Yeah.
price. Okay. And those really aren't
And
my
you
kind
will
of
sit there till the
sellers.
end of time.
I mean, I'm just like, oh God, right? You're killing me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of agents ask me, okay, what's kind of what I can do, I guess, today to gain some more business, to get some more listings. So I kind of came up with what I did when I was a new agent is I made a
Okay.
list of all my closest friends, my relatives, my acquaintances, even the person that I met at Whole Foods last week. And
For
I
new,
would, yeah, I would just basically take my sphere and I would create CMAs for everyone, my brother, uncle, whoever, create a CMA. I think that's kind of, and then show them sort of what sort of appreciation they gained over the last couple of years. And then I would do probably 3 to 5 CMAs a day. I would write a little note and I would say, have you thought about trading up or down? Let's discuss. Put my phone number, put it on top of the CMA, either deliver it to them or email it to them. And I would just do that 3 to 5 times a day. And I think a lot of people would be like, wow, he took the time to really put this beautiful CMA together with, graphs and photos and, a really detailed report of what my home is worth. And I
sure.
think that can go a long way for just gaining your first 1 or 2 or 3 clients. I think that's something for new agents they can do today.
Yeah, I like that. Something I have my new agents do because I have them hold my open houses open.
Mhm.
I like Sunday open houses better than Saturday. I like both days if possible, but Sunday would be my choice. So then I tell them, okay, on Saturday you've got one job, and you're going to go and you're going to invite all the neighbors. You're going to go knock on the doors, and you're going to just say you're
Mhm.
going to give them a flyer and say, hey, I'm going to open this open house up an hour
Yep.
early for the neighbors because I want you all to get a sneak peek of the house. Here's the flyer. Da 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 da. Oh, by the way, would you like me to do a CMA on your house? Now, a lot of times they're like, no, but sometimes they're like, yeah, I'll see what my house is worth. So
Mhm.
typically, if our new agents will do that and they'll knock at least 20 doors, they will get 5 CMAs out of that,
Wow.
where those
Yeah,
neighbors,
that's
okay, yeah, I'll take a CMA. And then at that point, it becomes your game to lose, right? You've got to keep
mhm.
up with these people. You've got to nurture these people. Very rarely, I did have an agent about 6 months ago. Literally, the lady said, well, I was thinking about listing my house, and this must be God's way of bringing me an agent. I was like, you got really lucky. Does not happen very often, but good for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, but that, go out, get as many open houses if you're a new agent as you can get, because it isn't
Yep.
just about the people that walk in the open house. It gives you the excuse to go out and work the neighborhood. Invite them
Yep.
30 an hour early, bring in some punch and cookies, bring in some champagne. I don't care what you bring in, but bring in something for them to nibble, like
Mhm.
little nibbles. And then, and then talk about the neighborhood, give them a handout, ask them to do a CNA. That's the best way to start farming and taking ownership of a neighborhood. And I've had people
Mhm.
say to me, I mean, I'll even let people from other companies do it. I don't care. Like that's how, that is my mentality. But then I'll also try to recruit them afterwards, of course. I'm like, look what I'm willing to do for you, and you don't even work for me yet, right?
Yeah.
And but that is the best way to start having conversations, plus doing what you're doing, right? Creating the CMAs. I mean, it's hard to ask someone to list their house if they don't have the data. Data's king, data's queen. And so I love the CMA. I don't know about here, but I mean, our MLS makes a very good CMA.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's got
Yeah.
graphs, charts, and mhm.
There is a pretty there is an automated system on our MLS in Arizona, but also depending on what state you're in, some states this isn't allowed, but in Arizona, for example, we lean heavily on our title company. So we could
Not in
call
seeing
our
Texas.
title company up and say, hey, can you create a CMA for this property or a binder or help me with an open house? They'll even lend budget to hold the open house, have snacks there, have food there, cater it on their dime with their marketing budget. So that's a big, obviously route for us agents in Arizona to lean on our title companies as well.
You're so lucky. They don't do it in Texas.
I know you can't do it in Texas. I know that's one of the states where that's not allowed, but in
You know
Arizona,
why?
we
All
have
the
a lot of
title guys
leeway.
got together and they just said, we're not doing this because we don't want to pay for it, right? So they just all agreed to go,
Maybe,
next thing, not happening.
maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
But yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
to your point, like to me, the CMA is king or queen, right? It's like
mhm,
everybody you meet, you got to be like, hey, you live at 123 Apple Street, why don't I create a CMA? And then another reason, a good reason to create a CMA is because people have got more equity, NAR says, more equity than they've ever had
yep.
in the history of real estate, right? And so they can not only, maybe they don't have to sell their house, maybe they take equity out of their house and start buying in this reduced market. They start acquiring investment properties, right? So there's a million reasons to open a conversation with somebody about why
Mhm.
they should have a CMA from you and how you can explain what that equity in their home could do, right?
Yep.
Again, have a good mortgage person and say, hey, you may not want to buy another property. You may not want to do anything, but maybe you want to refinance. Maybe you want to cash out and pay off debt. Maybe you want to do this, this, and this, right? So you want to be that go-to person for your neighbors, your friends, your sphere of influence, and then hold open house. If you're a new agent, you should be holding houses open every weekend and thinking about the whole
Yes.
360 event, a whole 360 of holding the house open, the pre-party, the pre-launch party, the CMA for the neighbors, knocking doors, right? Meeting new clients as they come in the front door, right? It's an immersion. So
I really like that idea of bringing in the community, going to the neighbors, having it open just for them, because
an hour
the
early.
first couple days you have an open house, you have a ton of nosy neighbors that come through.
Oh, yeah.
You never knew who the neighbors are. Now at least you kind of know who the neighbors are. You can start conversations with them. For example, the
They
listing
have
that's going
kids, they've
live.
got friends. I mean, like you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know where your next client is going to come from, honestly. It's something, it's an industry that's really kind of, I mean, it's just interesting. It's just all about contacts. Contacts lead to contracts. We've talked about that before, and
Of
it's just
course.
who you know, how many conversations you have about real estate a day, and that leads to new business. And I think that as long as you're active in the market, holding open houses, having conversations on the phone, not afraid to talk about real estate, the business will come. And then it's all
And
about
then
really,
leveraging your social media too, right?
oh, of course. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, that's obviously a lot of my business comes from
Exactly.
Instagram. It used to come
Exactly.
from I used to go to Cars and Coffee. Like 3 days a week there was Cars and Coffee in different areas of Phoenix. And that was kind of my like hub. I found my niche. My niche is car guys because of my racing background. So
Right.
I'd go to Cars and Coffee and I'd start conversations and I said, "Okay, I'm going to talk to 10 people a day about real estate. I'm going to make a conversation even though the conversation might not happen naturally. I'll kind of work it in somehow." So I'll go to Cars and Coffee, chat about real estate, about what I'm doing lately, about the listings I have, obviously talk about cars and just kind of just mingle with people. But it always worked out for me because as long as I was top of mind and people thought of me, the phone rang, and I had to really make sure that people thought of me when they thought about real estate. And
Yeah,
especially
I mean,
those,
best known beats best, right? In anything.
yep.
Best known beats best product. Best known beats best everything. So if you can become the best known in
Hmm.
your area, in your sphere of influence, to your point, like you're always top of mind. I get a
Yep.
ton of business out of the automotive industry. And funny, when I was a car dealer, I used to, when we launched Alfa Romeo, we would, I had a whole team I paid to go to all the cars and coffees
Hmm.
because it was just, I mean, like there's some really, really good people at Cars and Coffee, like
Yeah.
business
I
owners,
mean, they can
Aries, and like,
afford, yeah, exactly. They can afford to take their Saturday morning and bring out their nice car and just
yeah,
it's such a great group, and I tell my agents like find your niche, if it's golf, maybe sponsor a hole and work that crowd, whatever it is, you kind of need to find your people and find where who can relate to you, who could trust you, and then build from there. And I think that's kind of the big thing is you got to find your niche for sure.
yeah, I think that's really important. And I'm really, you need to become the mayor of your own neighborhood. Like that's also where you should start. Like I've seen it on Etsy. I've had agents buy these really cute door hangers and they say, not only am I your neighbor, but I'm a realtor. And and they put their card in there. And I think back to all the years. I mean, I've lived in neighborhoods and no one's ever put a card on my door. Ever. So I think that, it's a dying art. So, you're out walking, you're getting your steps anyways. Why are you not going up to your neighbors and saying, hey, happy 4th of July. Here's a flag to put in your yard. Or, hey, happy
Hmm.
Mother's Day. I've baked some cookies for you, right? Like, really getting into your community where, again, you're top of mind.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
all about top of mind, top of funnel exposure for sure. Well,
Yep.
actually, lower funnel exposure, but you have to start feeding the funnel and you need to have multiple streams to be able to do it. But I do want to, I know that all of our agents are going to be watching this and probably some
Mhm.
other agents too. And I really want to encourage everybody go out there and talk to buyers right now. What's crazy, Arie, is that rents are at an all time high. Okay. Renting is at an all time high. And I'm going to give everybody this stat from NAR. in 2021, NAR said 12% of all properties were purchased from an LLC, a REIT, or a corporation. Okay, in Texas, that number was 28%. And I'm going to bet Arizona and Florida probably had the same type stats that Texas has. And so think about this. In the hottest market where people are paying $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 over for houses, these REITs, trust funds, these brokerages, they went out and they sold off the paper and they dumped it in real estate at any price. It didn't matter. Why? Because they're going to be investment properties. Why? Because somebody else was going to pay the freight on it, right? Pay the mortgage every month. So now imagine those numbers, y'all, are going to skyrocket. So now you've got people, they're paralyzed in fear. I'm scared. I can't buy a house right now. Oh my God, the sky is falling. Blah, blah. You know, I'm going to wait till it hits the bottom. Oh, good luck with that one. You know, I'm going to wait until it hits the bottom. So I'm going to go rent at the highest rental rates has ever been in the history of this country. I'm going to go rent a house right now because I'm going to wait for the race to the bottom. As corporations, LLCs are going to come in and they're going to buy houses like there's no tomorrow. They're going to come in.
Because if they were buying at the height, when it starts going down.
Right. And now, especially because the stock market sucks. So, I mean, you know, so all of the, anyway, so it's like, I believe that our job is to be the information, to be the source of, I mean, I feel like I'm always having this conversation with people. I'm having it on social media. When I go to the chamber or when I go speak, you know, I don't care who I'm speaking to somehow, or if I'm speaking to an audience, somehow I am working in what is going on in the real estate industry today. And the fact that at the height of the market, that 28% of the homes purchased in the great state of Texas were purchased by investors. They didn't care what the price was. Didn't matter. Because again, they're playing the long game. All right. So real estate's a bit of a long game. But the last thing you ever want to do, if you have the capability to buy a house, is to rent. On that one, because seriously.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the perfect place to park your money in an inflated.
You never lose money
when the
on
dollars and it's insane.
Like literally, I read this thing in Fortune or something that you can never lose money on real estate if you hold it long enough. Like it's the only thing ever that if you hold it, you'll never lose money. Period. Dot. You never lose money unless, of course, you buy swampland in Louisiana or something like that. But other than that, you're not going to lose money, and it doesn't matter what you pay because there's going to be up.
I bought in 2007. I bought a couple properties, and obviously that was a bad time to buy property. But it took up until 2 years ago. Sold it, still made money. You know what I mean? It took a long time, but it still made some money on it.
I mean, but it's a long game. And I'll tell you, there are some people that bought 2 years ago, and they're going to have to hold on for a minute now.
Yeah.
They're going to have to hold on for a minute for sure, because I mean, it was crazy. I had a listing out of Lake Travis, and it was $1.5 million. It was a great listing. It was $1.5 million. Lake Travis is like the lake in Austin. It's the place to be. It sold for 2.4.
Yep.
So 9 over, bidding wars. And I'm going to tell you the house today is worth about 1.6. And it's one of the reasons it's gone back so far is that the lake's drying up. I mean, the lake is like at 54%. Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, all it's going to take is one good rain over Labor Day or something, and then we will flood, and then it'll come back. But I'm just saying. So the person that bought that house is technically $800,000 in the hole. 10 years from now, they're going to be $800,000 ahead of the game, right? So it's a long game. But those are the conversations you need to have with people also.
For sure. I mean, I think that there's like you said, you just have to be the expert in your market. You have to be the expert to your friends and to your sphere. And then the business will come. I think that's starting the conversation about real estate is half the battle. If you can have those 10 conversations a day to different individuals, you're going to be top of mind. And that is all about being the expert in your business. And that's the most valuable thing that you can offer your friends in your sphere.
I agree totally. I just want to congratulate everybody that gets on this and watches this and who is doing our trainings every week. I mean, you all are the winners. You're absolutely the winners. You are broadly your knowledge so that I mean, hope, and I know that Arie and myself and Elena and Haas and, oh gosh, I don't want to leave anybody out, but everybody that does, Claudiane, that does these trainings, everybody that doesn't, like, we try to give y'all talk tracks so that you can just take what we say and go repeat it. Because,
Yep.
none of us have an original thought. Everything I hear or say, everything I say, I've heard somewhere along my life and my career. And then I've
Yep.
cleaned it up, or, made it a little more Lisa-fied, whatever it is. And then now I regurgitate it, So don't be afraid of that, right? I know you had Haas Pratt on last week. He's amazing. And, all of us have been around for a long time. So, lean
Yeah,
on
I've
us,
been
a resource.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this has been the coolest part about joining EXP is like the collaboration between you and just our whole team.
Yeah,
It has been awesome. We have a ton of agents that are underneath us that are learning and growing and getting new business. And I love to see that because, I've been in the real estate business now since 2004 and heavily since 2015. And I always felt like I was on an island. I was at Remax, I was doing well, I was making a couple $100,000 a year, but the clock would reset every year. Try to get hungry again. I didn't have much support, and I really felt, kind of alone in my business.
right.
But now I feel like I have a big team behind me. I love doing these weekly chats because it's really cool because I learn things from you. I learn things from Haas. I learn things from Tarek.
Yeah,
Brian Colhane has been an amazing mentor.
for
And
sure.
I want to give back to the people that that are working with me now at EXP, just because it is a lot of fun to share the knowledge and to share little tips on how to make money in this industry, because I feel like there's so many different ways to make money in real estate. I call myself a real estate agent, but I'm more than that. I'm an investor. I own commercial property. I'm trying to buy multifamily. I'm diversifying.
You have a team, you
And
have equity in the company, like all of those.
Exactly. Exactly. Now I have a team. I have over 20 agents underneath me that I'm teaching these skill sets to every day. And we have a WhatsApp chat, and it's so collaborative, and I do love that so much about EXP. It's all about sharing knowledge and helping one another, because we're all vested in each other's success. We all want each other to succeed because it directly affects us a little bit. So
It
it is
does.
such a cool
Crazy.
model. And yeah, no, and I love that, we can lean on each other um, for things like this. It's really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
yeah, so I will, we'll catch up soon. Hopefully you can come back. Maybe we can talk about, maybe in a few months, it's talking about how the market's going insane, because in my opinion, I feel like the market is a good pickup in towards the end of Q4 into next year is my opinion. I
Well,
talked
I will
about it
tell
in my
you,
first.
I will tell you what Glenn Sanford said, our chairman of the board. I interviewed him last week, and he really made me feel better because, I talked to him. I said, one of the ways I came up with the title for my book, Conquering the
Mhm.
Shift. So if you think about shifts, right? I lived in California as a kid, and so I lived really close to the San Andreas Fault, right in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so there, and all a fault is, right? It's two plates, right? And then
Mhm.
when there's a shift, sometimes it's
Yeah.
a 4.0, a 7.0, or a 9.0, right? You don't know. So, I asked Glenn Sanford, our chairman, I said, what kind of earthquake, like what kind of shift do you see? And he said, well, I would have told you about 6 months ago, I would have thought it would have been a 7 or an 8 on the Richter scale. He's like, but now that I'm looking at it, now that I'm seeing some, positive economic data and some other things, I think it's going to be about a 4.0. But that 4.0 is still going to shake some people to their core, right? So
Mhm.
if you think about a 4.0, I mean, I used to sleep through 4.0 earthquakes, in California. When it got to about a 7.0, you
I'm
were like
glad.
under the dining room table with a
Yeah,
chandelier
yeah.
going.
I'm glad I live in Arizona. Sounds
Yeah,
terrifying.
yeah, it is. But but now I live in Tornado Alley, so I don't know what's worse. But anyways, all that being said, I think that we have to get our mindset into the fact that this is a 4.0. Okay, so when we hear something that shakes, rattles, and roars, like don't get so devastated, so paralyzed, or even worse, think, oh, I'm going to quit. I'm just going to quit. Like, this is hard. Because, guys and
Mhm.
gals, it's been so easy the last few years. But this is, I mean, we get paid a lot of money for doing what we do. So,
Yep.
we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to our clients, and we owe it to the fact that this is a great career, that we continue to sharpen our skills. And when we feel that jolt, right, to be able to brace yourself,
Mhm.
get back up, wipe yourself off, and continue to move forward. And if you get to the point where you feel like, oh, I feel hopeless or I want to quit, reach out to your upline, and
Yeah.
and go back to why you got into this business in the first place. And I guarantee you, not one of you got into it because you said, oh, it's so easy. I could go put a sign in the yard and make 30 grand. I mean, you might have, but I hope not. Hopefully you got into it because you wanted to be, a great professional and an asset to people and to your community.
Yep. No, I agree.
There's that.
And just know that if you're watching this, you have our support. You can always
Absolutely.
reach out to us and lean on
That's
us
right.
for
I'll give you
sure.
that pep talk.
There you go. Well, thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate you coming on today, and
Of
we'll
course.
catch up soon. Yeah. So if you want to learn more about EXP and the opportunity, comment down below. I'll reach out directly, and we'll see you at the next one.
All
All
right.
right.
Bye,
See you, Lisa.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.